and sat down. Actually, we are officially live. Shit, I'm not even ready. So what I've just done here, everybody, if you didn't know, happy Monday to everybody, by the way. For all those that don't know, it's Monday here in Australia, and I've just gone and flicked the switch live on this broadcast without even being ready. I've actually just sat down at my desk and created this stream. But I've got somebody backstage that I wanted everybody to meet with because Ryan belongs to a client of ours, and I'm very excited about their technology because their technology is Australian born, Australian bred, and they're a big global company, and you've probably never heard of them. And the whole point of doing this LinkedIn live with them is so you can get to know them, because I think it's important that we support companies that are born here and obviously are Australian. But more importantly, I think right now with the scrutiny on budgets and everything else, everyone is looking to save money. And I think what these guys have is a cracking way to do that. So let me just stop waffling. I hope you've all had a good weekend, by the way. I'm going to introduce Ryan O'Connor from a company called Nitro. And if you've not met Nitro, get along to that website. Ryan, how are you, son?
I'm good, Goffy. How are you?
Mate, I'll tell you what. So can I just share with you what I've just done? I literally rushed. I had to go and drop something off to a friend of mine very quickly. So I jumped in my car here at 20 to 3. I drove over to Potts Point, dropped it off, and came running upstairs, sat at my desk. It was 3 minutes to. I dropped you the link, and here we are live.
Here we are, well prepared.
Mate, I sometimes think that the best things are unprepared. I really do.
Surprise yourself.
Mate, you know what? I'm really excited about Nitro because I know, you're a client of ours, and we're very, very grateful to be able to work with you guys. And I just love you to tell the Nitro story to everybody, because I don't think when you came along, I didn't even know who Nitro were. And I think the biggest thing, just like with Meat Magic, the biggest thing that stops business from growing is obscurity. That's it. So, I mean, when I learned and found out about what Nitro do, I was gobsmacked, and I thought, well, why on earth would you continue with that normal way of doing things when you can, 1, support local, 2, reduce your cost, and 3, get a better all-round service, which for me is a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when everybody's trying to differentiate, you're actually doing more of the same, and as a result of that, you're not differentiating at all. You're just blending in with the crowd. So, no, I totally get it. And obviously, having Meat Magic help us with getting in front of the people that we want to speak to directly is, doing wonders for, I suppose, clearing the smoke. Yeah. And, so somebody once told me, the higher you go up, the thinner the air, or something like that, but I don't think it's the case. No, so it's been amazing. And so Nitro, when I first got the job at Nitro, to be kind of responsible for enterprise sales for Asia Pacific, it's sort of like, okay, so there's this Australian founded organization that's really taking on these legacy or incumbent vendors that have been around for a long, long time. Some would view them as, potentially have a monopoly. I don't want to say that, but it just means that the pricing is set by one organization. It's not really democratized. People sort of feel that they're forced into a particular way of doing things, and more and more enterprises now are starting to get the fact that there are other places to go. There are other vendors to talk to. There are better ways of doing things, cheaper way of doing things. And to be honest, with the coronavirus pandemic, there has been a massive increase in interest of what Nitro do, because we do a couple of different things. But I mean, I'll just, when you want me to sort of give you a bit of a spiel, I guess, you let me know, and I'll try and give you sort of 2 minute update.
Do you know what I'd really love? I'd love you to tell everybody how you got your job, because you snuck it in, didn't you?
My job.
Because I remember you telling me the story about how I think Michael, the VP of Asia, wanted someone that lived locally.
Right. Yes, of course. See, I tell you too much.
Right. But that's a great story because, when things are meant to be, they're meant to be.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I think well, when you're talking about things being shrouded in obscurity, I maybe was the master of that when, yes, during the very long interview process, which was about 6 or 7 stages long.
Wow.
The question I had posed to me was, where do you live? The answer I gave was obscure, very deliberately obscure, because it meant that I would have a bit of a commute into Sydney City. And I don't want that to be the first thing that someone judges me on, is the distance that I have to travel into the office. So,
Which they do.
They absolutely do. They absolutely do. So, anyway, I sort of, jumbled around a few words to sort of get the vote of confidence. And anyway, here I am. Made it through the 7 or 8 stages. But they don't just let anybody in. I can tell you that much. I mean, I had to fly to Melbourne twice. I had to present to the CEO. So, I feel very grateful that they have that due diligence on, the team members that come on board at Nitro. It kind of gives you a sort of a vote of confidence that you're working with people that have gone through the same rigorousness.
Yeah.
So everybody is, super talented, and they've certainly earned their right to be at the table. So it's a great place to be.
So tell us about Nitro, because look, as far as I see it, and we don't bag anybody off here. We don't. I use a Nottingham word. We don't slag anybody off here because we try and just be professional about this. But you really are a massive alternative to Adobe, right? That's the long and short of it. Yeah,
that's certainly traditionally been certainly the long and short of it. I mean, we were Australian founded by Sam, our CEO, who's he was, as far as I know, he grew up on a farm in Tasmania, came out and studied at RMIT. So now he's in Melbourne. When I think Adobe made the PDF file format a standard back in 1994, it basically opened up the marketplace to say, okay, so here's a file format that was once proprietary, but now can be, I suppose, used interchangeably for different applications, line of business, and so on and so forth. And so alternatives started to pop up. But even if you were a vendor trying to compete with Adobe, I mean, you still had 10 years of software development in front of you to try and get any sort of feature parity. But look, Sam and his founders and the team and in those days certainly did that. And now 15 years on, Nitro Pro as a product, which is our desktop application, certainly competes head on with Adobe Acrobat. And there's almost been a bit of a paradigm shift in our roadmap these days, because now we're including electronic signing, and so the product called Nitro Sign, which basically extends PDF to lend itself to things like digital transformation, right? And digital transformation is being accelerated, as you know, it's being massively accelerated by organizations, by CIOs all over the place now, because of a distributed workforce, because everyone's working from home. And so we're in a good spot here to have solutions that truly enable, companies to basically spend a lot less, get a vendor that's going to work with them strategically to run, digital transformation, print reduction through electronic signing, through Nitro Sign. And so, I mean, CIOs love us because of all those strategic initiatives. Procurement loves us because they get to spend about, sometimes it works out to be about half. And end users love us, and they actually prefer us to some of the solutions out there, the incumbent solutions. It's a better experience, and you get to actually speak to some human beings. We're not just a faceless conglomerate, wash our hands. So, and we're all local here in Australia, and we love working. We've got an office in Melbourne, we've got support staff in Melbourne, and it's great that they can reach out and speak to a human being who's down in Melbourne, for instance. It's a nice local touch. Makes you feel closer to your vendor in that respect as well.
Mate, I've got to say, I've tried I remember when I first set up Meet Magic, and when you're a founder, you're everything. You're sales, you're marketing, you do everything, right? And so when you come up with a new concept, and I remember using a cloud-based service from what was the product called? It was an Adobe product to design. It was InDesign.
Yeah, I think that's still around. Yeah,
I far out. I mean, if you don't need a rocket science degree to work out how to use that. Yes, it's a great product, but as soon as Canva came along, I thought, I'm 50, right? So I'm a bit slow off the mark sometimes. And when Canva came along, it was like, oh, that's easy, way easy. And I was getting the same. I was getting the same thing. Whereas the InDesign product, you needed to get regularly trained and updated and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Is that the same in your world? Because it seems like things have been simplified so much in that same context.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on a huge point that we try to sort of go to market with, actually, which is, I mean, look, Adobe, no one ever got rid of Adobe because their products didn't do what they wanted them to do. They do what they want them to do, but they do way too much. They are products that are built for power users and specialist users, usually in the creative kind of, disciplines. Students who are creative, students use these tools at university. They go on to use them in their professional lives. But the same thing happens with the productivity tools. I mean, look at Microsoft Word versus, say, Google apps with Google Docs, right? Microsoft Word, extremely robust, has been adding features for 50 years or whatever it has been, right? And tell me how many features you use in Microsoft Word that you couldn't use in, say, Google Docs, right? You want a heading 1, a heading 2, and a paragraph, and away you go. That's pretty much all you use. So it's sort of like 80% of the functionality is used by 20% of the users. So you can guarantee that you are paying way too much for a tool that nobody actually needs the full functionality for.
Yep.
Or it becomes so cost prohibitive is that you never give those tools to all of your knowledge workers. You give it to a small fraction of your knowledge workers, maybe 30, 40%. And so that nobody ever ends up getting the tools they need to do their jobs on their desktops because they're picking the most robust, powerful tools to do, honestly, what just needs to be a very simple job. Yeah. And so a large part of what resonates well with customers when we talk about that is that, the way that enterprise software is bought and deployed looks like that, right? It looks like it's partially deployed because it's cost prohibitive, goes to power users only. So Nitro comes in at a price point that allows you to just give it to everybody. Everybody can just start working with PDF. Don't go and print something, sign it and scan it. Don't go and find somebody with an Acrobat license because you don't have one and they're a specialist user. And the impact of productivity is crazy. So
are people still printing and signing and scanning?
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, we've got a business intelligence tool that runs off the back of our app, and we can actually see where the printing is happening in the organization as well. And when you show that to IT managers and so on and so forth, I mean, they're blown away because they think that they've deployed digital transformation successfully into the business, and then you see 10,000 pages printed per minute or something, and you kind of no, it's not. And our data tells us that most printing happens because they want something signed, right? And there's so much stigma certainly in Australia, but I mean the whole world. There's so much stigma about the legalities and the compliance around electronic signatures. I mean, the ATO has been accepting electronic signatures for years. So it's time to kind of and I think that with the pandemic and over, it's sort of like people are starting to realize that not using electronic signatures is some sort of a luxury. You certainly don't want to be buying printers for every single employee to be at home working remote and printing and signing and scanning them off to people. It's kind of like when you go into a doctor's office and you want a script and then say they're going to get it faxed over, and you kind of fall to the floor because you're like, hang on a second, you're still using a fax. We see a lot of that.
Is there a specific type of company, like a lot of the ones that are like the stalwarts of Australia that have been around for like 5,000 years? Is it those types of companies that are really struggling with that transformation? I mean, how easy is it to adopt? How easy is it to go from that legacy-based approach to adopting a Nitro?
Look, I think we would always say it's super easy. Change is never easy, particularly when it comes to end users and technology. But we've got lots and lots of success stories that we can talk about all day long. I mean, we've got Fortune 5 sized organizations that have been around for a long time. So I know that's US centric, but just to give you an idea of the scale in which we can make this change happen. United Health Group, for instance, Fortune 5 at the time, 250,000 employees,
Wow.
switched tens of thousands of users in around about 8 weeks. Here in Australia, I mean, some of our customers include BlueScope and JLL, Treasury Wine Estates, and they all did a very similar thing. And nobody wants to do change to, I suppose, you can run the equation of, if I make the change, does that cost more than the savings that I can potentially make? And from our point of view, the answer is no, it doesn't, right? So once the users in those companies provide the feedback to end user IT decision makers who decide what goes on what desktop, we see that change within 8 weeks, and it could be 100 knowledge workers, or it could be 10,000 knowledge workers, and those are small numbers for us. It could be 40,000. Yeah,
it's interesting. We had a LinkedIn Live on Friday with a guy called Aid McCormack from the Digital Readiness Institute, and he was talking about how we've basically come from being in the caves, hunters and gatherers in the caves, and then we went into the agricultural age, and then we went into the Industrial Revolution, which is pretty much where a lot of the companies are still stuck. And it's almost like this coronavirus is saying, okay, let's just put an end to the Industrial Revolution right now, right there. And it's almost like, okay, you got to work from home, you've got no choice, get on with it, because you can't go to the office. Are you seeing that that's impacted the way people are rolling out what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean, when it first did happen, there was a lot of organizations that we had spoken to, back in 2019, back in 2018, back in 2017, that, it was never good timing and this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden, I mean, everyone was banging down our door and saying, we know you've got this as part of your solution. So, they sort of, the interest in demand. I mean, our CEO came out with some statistics. With the pandemic, I think, video conferencing as a vertical or category of software vendor, demand went up by 600%. Second to that, electronic signing was up 500 and something %, right? Wow. So trailing very closely behind video conferencing, and we all know how crazy Zoom and all those other companies. I mean, Zoom now is valued more than the 5 biggest airlines in the world combined, or something like that. So I mean, that kind of give you an idea of the scale of how much demand there is for what we do as a result of this. But yeah, it's sort of forcing the acceleration of, enabling remote work and, making remote employees productive and enabling them to work digitally, 100% digitally, and not having a printer in their bedroom or wherever they're working from at all. Absolutely.
It's really interesting. I live here in Rushcutters Bay, and it's pretty posh, and some of my neighbours are pretty posh. And they've one of them, Ian, he's 80, and I think his son runs Deutsche Bank in the UK. So we're talking top end. I think they know the Queen. It's that level. But he was telling. Oh, I'm not joking. Yeah, I'm pretty straightforward. Yeah, they know the Queen. In fact, his son's kids, I think, are quite well known to the Queen's Guards, because they ride their bikes around the yeah. So I'm not sort of putting it up there as a joke. It's actually real. And he's 80. He's one of my close friends on the park here. We walk our dogs every day and whatever. And he was telling me how he's got a very posh English accent. I'm not going to try and do it, but he says, "Oh yes, and I had to sign things digitally. I've never done that before," and it was hilarious. And I could think of nothing, but all I could think about was Nitro, because here's an 80-year-old guy. He said he had his lawyers who lived across the road, and they've sent him, because they're not allowed to see each other. He's not allowed to go and he's one of the major shareholders of Westpac and all these other. He said, I've had to sign documents electronically. I've never done that before. He said, and all the lawyers have had to do it too, and they've never done it before. Is it? How can this sort of stuff be new to lawyers?
Yeah. Yes. Well, you'd be surprised.
It's really, mate, it's an amazing Australian story. So you guys are literally all over the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the major, headquartered would be San Francisco. Got a big software engineering space there in Dublin as well, because that's a big tech hub these days as well.
Tax write-off, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Staff in London. I'm in Sydney. The rest of the Australian crew is down in Melbourne. I'm actually in Melbourne right now, to be honest. I'm down on a train last night, and I just went and jumped in the water, and it was about 3 degrees Celsius. So that was fun. Going to go and see my boss and a couple of the guys tomorrow, which I haven't seen for a long time. So basically, it'll be the first time we've seen each other since we're all closed down. It's kind of an off the books trip, to be honest. So I thought I'd broadcast that live to everybody. Sorry.
How did you get there? Did you fly?
Train. No, I got a train. Yeah.
Wow. So
I was avoiding airplanes. I didn't want to go to 5 extra stops and pay $600 just to get down here. So got the overnight train.
So let's say, tell us one thing about a client that you're looking for. Are they a certain size? Is it? Do you care what kind of size company you deal with?
I do. My company doesn't, but I do. So I'll focus on me because that's all that matters. Yeah, we like to, and through your service, these are certainly the people that you get us in front of. They are usually executives in charge of organizations that have a lot of knowledge workers. And if you look at sort of total staff counts, we're talking 1,500 full-time employees or more, with the majority of those being knowledge workers. So document-intensive organizations, commercial real estate, the legal, big legal firms, fast-moving consumer goods, packaging, manufacturing, all very, very good, great organizations that have really good, solid use cases for what we do. So thanks for making us, thanks for getting us in front of all of the executives that you already have, by the way, because I mean they're all fitting that brief. So we're really enjoying the experience.
I can't believe we got you in front of one guy. I'm not going to say who it is, but he was so blown away by it. He was about to roll it out and then gets himself stood down.
Yeah, well, I know who you're referring to. So, yeah, it was great. Yeah.
And this was just something that Aid said on Friday. Actually, he said that no traditional job is safe anymore. He said you have to consider that your career is now your startup, and you have to constantly innovate your startup. That's your career, and how you do that is by learning and upskilling and doing all the stuff that you need to do to keep yourself fresh and employable. That's I think what we're all having to do now. But mate, I'm hoping we can find some clients for you off the back of this this little live, because God knows all of those companies out there, all those verticals that you mentioned, most of them are trying to cut costs, and if they're using one of those legacy suppliers, well, this is a great way to support the local companies and lower the cost and get a better service. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. I don't know why you would continue paying massive licensing fees when you can when you run your own business. You tend to look at these things quite acutely, but when you're part of a big machine, it's a bit different. But I know companies, I know people out there. In fact, Manoj, who I know of, if you're watching Manoj, I know you're all about the dosh, all about saving money, and he's saved the company that he's working for a lot of money at the moment, and I just know this would be right up his alley, because it's it makes him look good for saving the company lots of money, and it's a better service. It just doesn't make sense to keep doing it the old way.
Yeah,
mate. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
it'll get posted on LinkedIn and I think YouTube and whatever. So if you want to flick it around, and hopefully if anyone out there, literally anyone out there, is using old legacy document stuff, PDFs, then have a look at Nitro. Go nitro.com. That's where you're going to support local. A big Australian success story, which is amazing. And the funny thing is, this whole thing about obscurity for me is crazy. It's so many great Australian stories that are spreading out around the world, and no one knows about them.
Yeah, well, Sam was actually featured in the Australian this morning. I don't know if you saw it.
Was he really?
And yeah, and you know, a lot of people don't know that we listed on the ASX last December 19th, I think it was, and we got to go along and ring the bell. And given the economic downturn that we've just been through, the timing could not have been better. So it was a great experience, great outcome for all of those involved, of course, early investors and so forth. But, you know, it's put us in a really good position to continue to innovate and build out, you know, electronic signing and so on and so forth, and really start to, you know, I suppose, better enable customers that, I mean, we've got customers that have been with us for years and years and years on the PDF side, but now it's really about them extracting even more value out of our relationship by doing more electronic signing and, you know, getting their workers to work digitally. So,
yeah, we've had Catherine Tang, who's in a digital transformation space. She said it's a great product and she's used it.
Okay, great. Where's she from?
I don't know. I think Neil Templeman said it's a compelling value prop. And Richard Buick, who's a real estate, here we go, real estate. He said he's been using electronic docs for years. It makes so much sense.
Great. Yes, well, there you go.
Happy Monday. I'm hoping I hope we get some traction off this for you. Thank you for being our client. We're very, very grateful to you and the Michael and the team. And we're going to continue to keep finding you some great contacts at that C-suite level, and hopefully, you know, get some value for you as well.
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah. Have a cracking Monday.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Carl.
Cheers, Ryan. Take care. Bye.
Bye.